in print, right?
Yeah, it's in the commission folder if they've got their things, and then you've got the actual copies of it over there.
Well, I did.
Can you hand the chairman a copy of that resolution?
Whatever was on the screen that we were going to read. Are we live? All right. Okay. Nice crowd tonight. We'll call the meeting to order for the Upshur County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, August the 13th. If you would at this time, please rise for our invocation. Mr. Steve Black is going to take care of that business for us tonight, followed by our pledge.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time you allow us to come together, Lord, and discuss business. God, we know that many times it's a hard thing to do, and to do it peacefully, Lord, but I just ask at this time that we're able to carry on civil communication, Lord, that we can talk about it, find ways to make things work, Lord, and God, I just ask that you bless this county. Bless those that are here tonight, Lord, and keep us all safe. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Will you join me in the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So before I really get down to any business, I do want to take the time to recognize our distinguished guest. Hopefully, more than likely, soon to be our new state rep, effective in January. So, Mr. Dickey, just thank you for coming.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to hopefully representing Upshur County in the future. I know many of you, and look forward to meeting those I don't.
Yes, sir. Appreciate what you do for our community and our state. Okay. Gentlemen, before we get down to business, and get down to the agenda, I do have a request for a change to the agenda. We need to add a discussion of bond resolution for the 2024 T-Splosh bonds. And I would recommend that we do that as our first order of business. So staff recommends discussion of bond resolution 2024 T-Splosh bonds be added to the agenda. Have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of that change to, okay. All right, so with that, I'm sorry, my hearing aids are tuned in and I'm hearing some discussion in the background, so if you would, just keep your discussions to a minimum.
We can just barely hear you.
Okay, I'll do a better job. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so first item on tonight's agenda is discussion of bond resolution for the 2024 T-Splosh bonds. With that, Jason, I'll let you please.
Sure, just a quick introduction. As the board was aware, this month we went to market with our voter-approved T-Splosh bonds for our upcoming resurfacing project. I think to say that the sale went well today was an understatement. Our financial advisors are here. They're going to give you a brief presentation and make a recommendation to you on how to proceed from here.
Okay.
Good. Thank you for the introduction, Jason. Members of the board, again, Doug Gebhardt with
Yes,
Davenport. We also have Ricardo with me. Yes, today was a great day to sell bonds, and in front of you, you have a brief presentation that I'm going to just walk through with you. Today was a culmination of a lot of hard work coming to fruition. This started back in 2023 when we realized that the old T-Splosh collections were going so great that it was going to hit the collection cap, and so what we needed to do is go back to the voters, and so we started working on that in last summer, and in November the residents approved the renewal of the T-Splosh, or the transportation splosh. Within that, it authorized the estimated collections of $25 million countywide, and it also authorized the issuance of up to $9 million of general obligation bonds. So back in February, we came to you all with the plan of finance and some recommendations on the path forward. In March, we adopted the election resolution, and also began the validation process. So you can see there's been a number of steps to get us to where we are today. The next page shows just because of the nature of the SPLOST being a 5-year bond, the market is where we're looking at. We're obviously not at the lows of where we were in the pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, but we've had a nice little decrease now and kind of below the peaks that were towards the end of 2022 and 2023. So ultimately, in order for us to sell the bonds on page 3, we went and got our credit rating affirmed by Moody's. There's 2 main rating agencies we recommended going forward with Moody's. They affirmed the county's credit rating of AA3, which was the existing rating. The next page just talks a little bit about some of the major observations that the rating agencies gave us in response to our conversations with them. One of the things that we did point out is that reserves are expected to stabilize at the currently sound levels after having drawn on that over the last few years. As you well know, there's been some draws on the fund balance to help offset some of the millage rate decreases that you all have done over the last few years. But they're expecting it to stabilize. One of the credit challenges and things that could look to a downgrade, which we all talked to you all about in June, I believe it was, is the possibility related to the hospital authority bond guarantee. So we did bring that up in our discussion. They got comfortable with it, but that's why we want to make sure those appropriate protections and things are in place, because it's clearly outlined in those things that it could affect the county's overall credit rating. So we're going to be mindful of that going forward. So today at 10:30 a.m. we put out a bid through a document called the Notice of Sale. We ended up receiving 10 bids back. 3 is what you need to satisfy. The IRS is that it was a competitive process. So 10 is kind of more than 3 times the standard that's needed. And we only got 4 bids when we did the judicial center bonds. So the market was very, very hot. There was a nice rally today. Jeffries provided the low bid at an interest rate, or TIC, true interest cost, of 2.7%. They were almost 5 basis points better than the cover bid of Janney Montgomery Scott. So overall, the high to low ranged just over 30 basis points, and we were very pleased with the results. When we began the planning process, the TIC on this was just north of 3.25. So we were very pleased with how the bids came back today.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do you know how this compares to the last time we got the bond for the T-spot?
It's roughly 1% higher. 1.7%, I believe, was the last TIC on an apples-to-apples basis.
Yeah, compared to market, that's strong.
Yeah, compared to where interest rates are, we're very pleased with how the results turned out. The next page shows the final pricing results. You see the coupons. That's the annual cash flow that the investors receive. The yields on the bond is the ultimate return that they're going to receive, ranging in that 2.88 down to 2.64. The far right side of the page shows the price in today's market. Because that coupon, to get that higher annual cash flow, the more interest payments the investors pay, a premium up front in order to get that. And so by issuing $9 million, instead of downsizing the project, the county has elected to use those additional dollars to fund more projects. So by issuing $9 million of bonds, we're able to fund $9.3 million of projects. One of the things, the next page shows the final debt service schedule, roughly $2 million a year, which is well within our planning estimates. One of the things you can see there on the right-hand side of the page is the underwriter's discount. Note that this underwriter purchased the bonds today, and their fee was only $9,000. $1 a bond. That's remarkably strong. Remarkably strong. We've seen bids 10 times that number for similar transactions. The other thing that the bonds were completely pre-sold, which is part of the reason we got some great results, meaning that before we even got into it in our marketing period, they had sold 100% of your balances to the bottom line investors. So we're very pleased with the final debt service results. So ultimately, what we're asking you to do tonight on the last page is adopt the bond resolution, and within the bond resolution contains all the terms and conditions, the final principal amounts, coupons, interest rates, and awarding the bid to the low bidder. With your approval, we'll work to close on the bonds on August 29th. That's when the funds will hit the county's bank account, and we can get those trucks moving on the road as soon as possible. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any other questions?
If I could interject, just the fact that this was as strong as it was speaks volumes to the leadership, to the staff, and why they wanted to buy Upton County debt. So congratulations again.
Yeah. I would be remiss to say, thank you to Jason and Alan, who's not here, and Jessica for their help along the way. It's a lot of work in addition to their day-to-day job. So we appreciate all the efforts that they've put forth to help get us to this point. So thanks to you two specifically.
Pick a good day.
That's right.
Pick a good day to be in the market at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, right? So, and just to reiterate, because there's a lot of people here and they probably don't understand what this is for, because we voted on this as a community for some time ago. This $9 million is for a very large road resurfacing project that we have currently gone to market as of today for bids. Probably one of the largest road resurfacing projects this county has taken on. Those pennies, those dollars from that penny sales tax is already coming in. And so that penny is going to pay the bond debt, which you heard is minimal for this type of money. And what it's going to allow us to do is to get out here and get some of these areas. And we had a discussion on it last week. We've identified the roads that we're tentatively looking for. That project has gone out for bid. We expect within the next few weeks that we'll get those bids back, and hopefully we'll be off and running. And if you didn't know, a lot of those roads are in some of the higher density areas of the county, some subdivisions that basically, haven't seen new asphalt in 30, 40, probably some of these roads haven't been touched in 50 years.
Is this going to include Hannah's Mills Bridge?
Sir. No.
When is that going to be done?
Sir, I can talk to you offline about that, but, well, I'll be happy to talk to you offline, or you can call.
Yeah, I mean.
So with that,
Why does it have to be?
so this is not a public discussion, man. We can't do that right here, but I'd be happy to talk to any of you outside. We do have some news on that, and maybe I can share that towards the end of the meeting. But I just wanted everybody to know what this meant, what this money was earmarked for. And so hopefully before the end of this year, we'll get this project let and get a contractor in here before the weather gets too cold. And we'll see some road surfacing done late fall, and then hopefully we'll be at the top of the list in the spring when resurfacing starts again. All right. Appreciate y'all's diligent efforts and your support. Okay. Order of business on this. So we need to adopt the resolution. And I'll read it. A resolution to the Board of Commissioners of Upton County to regulate and provide for the issuance of $9 million in aggregate principal amount of Upton County, Georgia General Obligation Transportation Sales Tax Bond Series 2024. The bonds, as authorized by a vote of the qualified voters of the county in an election held on November the 7th of 2023, pursuant to and in conformity with the Constitution and statutes of the state of Georgia, to regulate and provide for the form of bonds to provide for the assessment and collection of a direct annual tax sufficient in amount to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, to provide for the sale and issuance of the bonds and for other purposes. Gentlemen, I need a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Ellington. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay, thanks you again. Okay. Doug, could you hand me those sheets, please? Oh, I was talking to the other Doug, but,
I'm equally capable.
yes, sir, thank you. All right, y'all have a good one. Safe trip back. Okay, gentlemen, next on the agenda is a public hearing. The first is for a 2024 millage rate hearing. I have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Public hearing is now open. So as I call your name, if you would, and as it's been mentioned, there's a large crowd in here, please come forward. There's a couple of X marks on either side, and we are being broadcast on YouTube as well. So if you would, please come forward, state your name and your address for the record. And we typically do 5 minutes. And we typically don't have a lot of questions. We don't do back and forth. But I understand, and my board members, fellow members understand, if you've got a short question about the millage rate, we can maybe answer a quick question, or we may probably have a question for you. So with that, we'll go down a list here, and just keep the time. Be conscious of your time and others' times. So first is Mr. Granger.
No, I have no question at this point. No, I signed that thinking it was simply a sign.
Okay, and that would that be the same for Mr. Cruz?
It would, yes.
And I can't read the last one. As a third individual.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're recording this.
Yes, okay, all right, so number 4 on the list, Richard Hart, is that correct?
Right here. I wear hearing aids too, so if you're going to answer anything to me, speak up. Richard Hart, 102 Windcrest Drive, Thomaston. And I'm not sure even who my county commissioner is. Can somebody tell me, it was first Winbrook subdivision, who would be my county commissioner? Mr. Jones? Okay. I got my tax bill in, it went up $500, and it had to do with evidently just, the ridiculous thing that's been going on the last 5 years, real estate.
So when did you get that?
Huh?
When did you get your tax bill?
I got one, now this isn't the final tax bill, it was a bill that came from the tax.
That was your assessment?
Yeah.
It was assessment.
All right, it went up $500, okay. Which property taxes have been out of sight for the last five years as far as, I don't know how they go about evaluating, but this isn't Peachtree City, this isn't Noonan, this is Thomaston, Georgia. Now you want to increase 50% now on top of what I've already done. What is the reasoning? You can't tell me that. What, is the county surplus that you have about dried up, or what? Why are we going up so much? And for Mr. Tinsley, I'd ask him this. He's the county manager. You have a chief financial officer. Don't you look out 3 to 5 years on expenses and all? He's not going to answer. Okay. Well, so anyway, what I want to say, y'all guys aren't going to answer any of these questions. Maybe I can get some on the side. Upson County has a 36%, I think, impoverished rate. I don't know what, you need to check and see what this, people that are 62 and over, what percentage that is. Okay, there's more people that rent in this county than have property. And now you're going to increase all that. Probably many of the seniors only have Social Security. But it just looks like it's just flat outrageous. And I don't know whether it's poor financing, you're not looking ahead in time. I don't know, Mr. Jones is my county commissioner, are y'all looking at these things? Did you know 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this was going to hit us? We got 8% sales tax. We got the judicial system going down there, which I don't think we really needed, but there was particular people on the board that wanted it, evidently. Okay, now we got the hospital bond, 36 million. I was in healthcare for 47 years. They wanted to expand the women's services out here. There's hospitals that are closing their women's services around. There's hospitals that are going bankrupt. So if they don't make those payments, we're going to have to make them, is what I understand. The other thing I want to know, this hotel that's going up, are we going to be affected by that as county employees if they can't make the payments? Is that it? You know, from what I'm reading, it was the city that was doing it, but are we going to have to be part of that? I don't know. You know, things get slipped in and slipped out on these things. You can't rely sometimes on the paper or what's going on, and it's just frustrating. I mean, I've been here, I grew up here, I left and I came back for some reasons, and I just don't, you know, like the school system, the kids that are smart and all in the school system aren't coming back to Thomaston. They're leaving. I was one of them. I graduated in 1970. I went and got a degree, a pharmacy degree, and I left. I didn't come back here. Now I retired and came back. So, and the other thing with this plastic thing that's going on, how much of a tax are we going to get any from that in the first 5 or 10 years? Probably nothing. You're probably going to give them a tax exemption for 5 to 10 years. Does anybody, what happens if it explodes out there? They have a fire. Is that toxic? Do we have a fire department that can even handle it? Macon didn't want it, but we're bringing open arms to bring it in here. And I'm just, you know, frustrated. I'm sure everybody else in here is getting frustrated about all this stuff you guys are passing. The 1% sales tax was a joke. We didn't have hardly anybody to pay, even to come down and vote on it.
Exactly.
What was the percentage? I don't remember. What was it, 10%? Okay. Well, is that my time up?
You brought up a lot of points, and I would love to have a discussion with you. Listen, I thought we were going to have it's not working.
Well, I would like to talk to
So-
some people individually then on this, and you can explain them better. I know you get, I don't understand why y'all can't answer questions at a meeting, but
Well,
I want some answers. I mean, I haven't come to a board meeting in 11 years, but I'm finally kind of fed up with what's going on. And maybe it's time we get some new people up there. I don't know.
I want to address a few of your questions real quick. I'm not your commissioner, but I want
I'm gonna have to come over here.
First of all, I'd like to say this. Has anybody in this room ever got an assessment bill and that was your final tax bill? No.
I've got one from South Georgia that was my final.
Upson County, Georgia. Okay, no, because when you get that assessment, it does not include any of your exemptions, not even your homestead exemption. It only takes your fair market value, what your house is valued at, and what the millage rate is. Doesn't include any exemption, so that is never going to be your bill.
Well, my bill had the homestead exemption on there.
I have
My bill
does not.
I get $14,000.
Your final bill has homestead exemption on it,
No, this one did.
but your assessment does not include homestead.
I called in and she.
Mine does.
all right.
But as far as that, the other thing, we're not going to get the state.
We're going to address some of Mr. Harp's stuff here, and he brought up a lot of stuff, and I'm sure that's what a lot of you here to talk about. So to Commissioner Ellington's point, you know, there is a tremendous difference between your assessment that you receive early on and your final tax bill that you get later.
Hundreds or.
But if you're looking at that money now, you're not sure, then how are you sure that we're going to need the increase on the millage rate?
Okay, so when the budget is set, early on, and we're getting ready to start the 2025 budget process, when all the department heads, constitutional officers, everybody that we are responsible as taxpayers for funding, come to us with their budget request for next year. It's put in the hopper. All right, it's going to be X number of dollars. Then, sir, can I answer? So it's looked at, and generally in there, staff provides us, because we have to have a balanced budget, what it's going to take for that budget to be balanced. What millage is it going to take to get it? So when we look at it, we do look years ahead. We're constantly, and I really wish we had the stuff in here. And I didn't bring the stuff in here because I wasn't going to come in here and hold up binders for you that you really, if you look, The 2023 budget is online, the 2024 budget is online, and all this stuff is done. And really, where we need to, as a community, to have these great discussions that we're having now is when we come up with the budget for the year. Because that's really where you can make the difference. Because that's where, as a community, as your elected representatives representing you as a community, that's where we say, this is what we're going to do. This is how much money we're providing the sheriff's department, the jail, the courts. And a lot of these services that we provide are mandated services, the courts and all of that, right? So that's when that's when we can make the biggest difference. When we get to this point, it's kind of like to your frustration is, we're at the point now we're paying the bill for the prior year. This is the 2024 budget. We've been operating on revenues that we have to get us to this point. The county used to operate, we used to have to borrow money. How many of you remember you pay your tax bill in November, and then the next thing you read on the front page of the paper, the county's borrowing money in January. Tax anticipation notes. We don't do that anymore. We eliminate it. We save that interest on it. We've got that money in there. And a lot of that has to do.
I appreciate you giving me the time. I'm sorry for my frustration.
Well, no.
Making you guys mad up there.
No.
But I just wanted to come and just ask some questions.
So, and I get it, and we're going to answer.
Okay.
Try, because I think, again, a lot of people have these same frustrations.
Yeah.
So to explain it, and I said coming in here, we're not going to do county government finance 101 tonight. It's impossible to do. Just know that and you heard it from the individuals that just came in here. The voters in the county voted on the T-Splosh, that penny, that took us to 8%. And we have since we've done that, you as a community have paid, almost half. And we do this batch of roads, almost a half of the miles of roads in Upson County will have been resurfaced. You have 426 miles of paved road in Upson County. We used to several years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, we were paving 8 to 10 miles a year. Some of it, again, back to what I said earlier, we got roads that haven't been paved in 30, 40, 50 years. The Justice Center, that's a point of contention for everybody. But the voters voted on it. The people who run our courts came in this very room and sat back there and told you on a YouTube video in an open meeting that we need this. We had a grand jury presentment. The grand jury that is responsible to coming to you as a community and say, your jail is adequate. Your courts, they came and said your courtroom is inadequate. You had letters from Superior Court judges telling you it was inadequate. So we put it to the voters, which was the only thing we could do, and the voters voted on it. Now, whether or not you chose to come and vote or not, I can't help that. But the voters voted overwhelmingly to do it. And so that's what's got that done. And you're going to be very proud of it. You may not like it today, but that was paid for in a bond resolution. That is being paid for. As long as we continue to approve SPLOSH, that is built into it, and it will be paid, not on property tax, for the building it's paid for, because you, the voters, voted on it. We have an obligation to do what the voters tell us, right? So, and so we're, and then the 50% number, I made note of it. You said 50%, and I know where you got it from. It's on the website, and Jason, it's kind of the obligatory language. It's not a 50%, and I wish I had the number that went up here. How many of you live in the unincorporated area of the county? Most of you do, right? All right. Well, and again, bear with me, guys. I said I wasn't going to do this. There are 3 millage rates that affect you and I, because I live in the unincorporated area of the county as well, that affect our total millage rate. One is the unincorporated, the county M&O, which is the big one. That's the one that pays the lion's share of the county services. That's the one that pays for public safety, now EMS, the courts, the jail, most of that. That's where the bulk of that comes from. And every resident in Upson County pays that, whether they live in the city or not. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So whether you live in the city or the county, now your dollar is the same as the city residents' dollar on paying for that deputy's salary, that deputy's, whatever, the courts, the DA, the inmate at the jail. Those dollars are the same. So that's the lion's share, and those are mandated services that we have to provide. Is there any service in there that's in the county M&O that we don't have to provide? So that's the biggie. Then we have the joint projects one, and that is a millage rate imposed on us to help pay for services that we share responsibility with the city on. Recreation is a big one. The senior center, archives, those things. And it used to be EMS. It was going to be EMS until the city said, hey, we'll pull out and y'all just take it and just tax everybody. Y'all are running EMS and y'all do it and you tax everybody. So joint projects. So what's happening on your joint projects? Your joint project millage rate for this year is going from what, the proposal?
It's going from 2.75 to 1.38.
Okay. So your M&O is going up.
That's unincorporated, 2.71 to 1.74.
2.71 to 1.7. So you're going down a mill, right? The other one is our unincorporated services, and that rate is
Currently 2.75, and then recommended to you at 1.38.
okay. So 2 of the 3 millage rates that we are having to impose are going down. So as you as a county resident in the unincorporated area of the county, it's not a 50% jump. It is a
16%.
16% increase.
Where did
So
that 50% number come from then?
Mr. Chairman,
Jason, you can try to explain it because I certainly can't.
So, going back nearly 20 years, the General Assembly adopted what's called your taxpayer Bill of Rights. So anytime our countywide M&O is greater than what's called the rollback rate, or the rate that would generate the same amount of revenue from one year to the other, if it goes up any percentage at all, we have to advertise it as a tax increase. So even though, so that for that one millage rate, that's the percentage. But for your overall rate, if you include the other rates, that's not the percentage. That's just the language we're required to put in a notice as required by the taxpayer Bill of Rights.
So it's not 50%, it's about 16% for residents of the unincorporated area of the county. The city obviously leverages their own millage rate to pay for city services, joint projects. That's pretty much it. So I didn't want to do a county government finance one, but so it is an increase, and that's what's got us here, because it is an increase, because this is the first year in quite some time that we have not adopted the rollback rate for county M&O. And why are we there?
Well, and last year we used our surplus to offset it to be able to roll back.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the 50% versus 16. Who comes up with those numbers?
The 50% represents the increase for one of the 3 millage rates.
It doesn't include the 2 that are dropping.
50%?
So it's still going to be over 50% because it's,
The net
all together, that's over 50.
No, sir, the net will be 16.
Two others that were 1.7.
The net is it.
The net is an increase of 16%, not 50%, correct?
So all 3 in total for 23 are 11.91. And then if you adopt them the way you advertise them, all 3 total for 2024 will be 12.64. So that would be, the difference between those would be the net increase.
12.6, it's going from 11.91 to 12.64, less than 1 mil.
This is what you guys are saying now, but why is the website once again stating 50%?
That's a document that,
We've seen stuff 41%, there's, variations all over the place. Why wouldn't it just come out 16% at the beginning?
because it's verbiage that the state requires the tax commissioner, I guess, to use.
Yeah.
And it does, most counties, a lot of counties don't have the different millage rates. I mean, some counties operate differently than others. So we have 2 other millage rates that are going down, but they're not included in that announcement that is mandated, that's posted. Does that make sense?
Well, now you can understand why we're kind of frustrated.
I absolutely do.
Because that's.
15 minutes before I came in here, I went on the county website, and I printed that notice out, and I went to Jason, and I said, Jason, this is saying 50%. So, yeah, I share that with you. Yes, well, are you signed up to make,
No, sir. No, sir.
throw one in? Because I hope that by having this discussion, maybe it'll cut down
I'll
on.
be very short, Mr. Allen. I know in the Upson Beacon, in the Wednesday paper this past Wednesday, they printed that the county tax increase will be 51 point something. And that's why a lot of people are frustrated and confused over what we're really paying.
It's because of that mandated notice right there. It, like I said, it does not include the other 2 millage rates that are being adjusted. I share it. I mean, 15 minutes before I walked in here. Because I don't look at the county website every day. I mean, I get it live, right? So, all right.
And Mr. Chairman, we wanted to have, apparently our system went down right as we brought the meeting to order here. All the information that I'm reading from our website, so it is out there, and it's available right from the home page. And like you and I had discussed before this meeting, we were going to have it so everyone could see it, but
and
for whatever reason, our system completely shut down.
And I want to comment on one other thing you mentioned. It's not really, it is budget related, but it isn't. Okay, you asked, okay, the county's got $9.3 million as of this morning at 10 o'clock to do projects, right? Could we take $5 million of that money and go build that bridge? Absolutely. Absolutely we could. But let me ask you, there's a lot of people in this community that bridge does not affect, that their roads haven't been touched in 40 or 50 years. I say that, but I'll also say we got an update from and that should be in tomorrow's paper. There was an update from our local GDOT, one of our engineers, that the Hannah's Mill Road Bridge is on what's called the STIP, State Transportation Infrastructure Plan. Now you ain't gonna want to hear it, but it's down the road. So this board, and maybe somebody else will change their mind, I don't know, spend $5 million of your local tax money, or spend $5 million of your state tax money. That bridge is a huge inconvenience for a lot of people. It is. So, the decision that this board made said, we're going to go after state money, and Mr. Dickey's been part of those conversations, as well as every state rep that we could lay hands on, including federal reps. We looked for money. So it's coming. It ain't coming fast enough. I get that. But, so what do you say to the majority of the people that bridge has minimal impact to? That their road hasn't been touched in 40 years. Oh, we're going to go pave this bridge that you never see, that you never cross. And we're not going to be able to pave your road for another 5 or 6 years until the next T-splosh. And then the thing we have, again, 426 miles of paved surfaces in this county. We only have like 30 miles of dirt roads. We talk about sometimes we don't have enough dirt roads, but dirt road maintenance is a whole nother game. So there are a lot of roads that people, that a lot of you live on that haven't been touched in a long time. And so we're about to do 60 miles. That's unheard of. And we're doing it, why? Because you as the community voted on it and supported it. I get it. I talk to people all the time. So we got another paving project coming. Well, you ain't paved my road. And I said, I know. We'll get there eventually. We're making a lot of headway. There's a lot of communities out there that don't have benefit of single county T-splosh. They won't vote it in, and they look at us and, how are you doing? And I said, well, because our community is leaning forward a little bit. We're willing to pay that penny to take care of some of these roads that haven't been touched in a long time. We have, and one other point, I got a letter from a lady, and all the commissioners did, and she brought up some points. And she mentioned, we had 13, 14 bridges in 2023 washed out. Many of you don't know that, did you? We had a heavy rainstorm that came through, and there were like 13 bridges in this community that got wiped out. Happened over a weekend. On Monday, we had engineers on deck, meaning they were there. And on Tuesday, one of them was Jeff Davis Road, right there at the bottom when you come past Max Grill down at the bottom down there. Y'all remember that? That being washed out? We had folks there. It was to the tune of about $1.2 million.
Most of them were culverts.
Most of them were culverts, yes. Yes. And a lot of them were replaced with bigger culverts. So I call bridges. You couldn't cross the road.
Government term.
Jeff Davis was.
So it was fixed, but we were able to do it because we were in a situation that there were communities that weren't able to get out there as fast as we were because you as a community are strong and were able to get these contractors here and do that. We had one property owner that was impacted on both sides. Couldn't get outside the property. But those are the types of things that have affected our fund balance because, again, we start the year 2025. We're going to start the year on January 1st with what money we got in the pot, and that's got to get us to November when we collect property tax, which is about 40% of the revenue that we use to operate as a county. So imagine you in your home. I said I wasn't going to do this, and I hope I've been doing this for 8 years. It took a long time for me to catch up on a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot more out. But imagine you in your home, you start January 1st with your checkbook, and you got to pay your bills to get through the year where the bulk of your pay doesn't come until November. That's kind of the way your county government operates. Not kind of the way it is the way we operate. And so we don't borrow money anymore. And so, again, we're about to go through this process, the budget process for 2025. Our partners in leadership in this community, our constitutional officers, our department heads, they're all going to come to us with a budget. And that's when I would hope that many of you would, and I know we all work, well, I used to, can't come to these things. That's what I want you to call your constitutional officers. I want you to call your county commissioners saying, why? What is the percentage of budget for, and I picked a big one, public safety and courts. About 60%.
Close, 58.
58% of your budget of the now about 21, close to 21 million. $21 million budget. 60% of it goes to your public safety. So when you start talking about what are you going to cut, where do you cut? It ain't, and the conversation we have is not where do you cut, it's who do you cut? I don't think there's anybody in this room that would want to cut a deputy anywhere. Heck, we just had another homicide in our community this weekend. Anybody want to cut deputies? Our jail is, it's got a fair number of people out there. You want to start cutting jail officers? Say the inn is full? Release these people back out?
Anybody's really saying that.
No, I know, but I'm saying, so then where do you cut? Do you cut recreation? You know how many conversations we've had with folks in the community that our rec department is not up to snuff?
I believe is people worrying about, you want all this money, and we can't afford it. And our taxes go up, we can't pay the taxes. Well, if I don't pay the tax and everybody else can't pay the tax, you're not getting the money, but we lose our properties. Now you don't have the people in the county. Now what do you do?
Well, the only real way, and I've been saying this for years, and is to keep your property taxes from going up. Because what's happening? Cost of goods and services is going up. Is there anybody in this room that's not paying more today to live the lifestyle that they lived last year? if there's anybody doing that, I'd love to, I want you to share your secret with me and everybody else, because the cost of living is going up tremendously. This inflation is hurting all of us. And we buy the same gasoline that you and I buy to put in these patrol cars.
That's why we all have to cut back. Why don't you?
What would you, that's my question. What do you cut?
Across the top, 10%, then if you cut too much, higher back.
Okay, I think one quick thing that we all feel, right? I've been trying to get a fence for about a year, right? I've been trying
To get a what?
A fence for property, right? People come out and they're giving estimates for 25,000. My neighbors are saying, hey, 2 years ago it was 10. So are you guys looking at those bids that are coming in for the road and for everything else? But when they come in high, it's gonna go up. Or do you say, hey, we don't agree with that, can you work with us? Because I don't know if that happens in government or not.
We bid out everything.
Because if I was spending that money like I do for the company I work with, I'm like, man, I'm treating it like my boss would treat it, right? I'm like, hey, we're doing this, this, and this, because I don't want to get to a point where we can't sustain what we need to do as a company to move forward. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm just saying, is there transparency on that part of it that we can say, hey, those bids are outrageous? I don't know if we get that, but you understand, right?
Yes. Anything over a certain dollar amount, over $25,000, comes to this board. That's the spending limit. Any capital, it gets bid out. We do the same thing that you would do at your home. You're looking for the lowest, best qualified bid, because you don't always want to go with the lowest bid. And that's what's going to happen when we do this road surfacing project. A project of that magnitude is going to get a lot of attention. And so, we're going to make sure that we get the most bang for the buck. That's the great thing about taking those projects like that and bundling them, because when you buy things in bulk, it tends to be less costly, right? So that road thing, I keep going back to that because that is a huge thing that we do. Commissioners used to be called the Commission of Roads and Revenue. Now it's just Board of Commissioners. So anyway, I know, has anybody got anything else I want to say before I go back to the list? Because I hope I've addressed some of what you have. So I'm gonna go back to the list, okay?
I think it helped a lot, you explaining some of this.
And not to come in here and beat you up or beat anybody up. A lot of this information is online. I mean, we printed the county was recognized. What was the award? Anyway, we were recognized for publishing. We talk about transparency. Our county budget book for 2023. It was published in hardback and online. We did the same thing for 2024, and we'll do the same thing for 2025. Another good place to look for your county finance, is on the annual audit. The best place to look is on the front part of that annual audit, where there is a management discussion and analysis, and it spells out where the money came from and where it goes. So,
Where's this annual audit?
it's online, man. It's online.
I hate to tell you this, but my eyesight's not that good, and I just have an iPhone. And so when I see stuff on the iPhone, I can't get it big enough to read it.
Yes, ma'am.
Also available at the library and the archives.
Did you hear that, ma'am?
Thank you.
Okay. I did not know that. So we do the very best we can to get this information out there. And a lot of it is, I mean, when you look at it, you'll say, this doesn't make any sense to me. Break it down, and so that's what we try to do in this management discussion and analysis. In the book, we talk about things. But, when you say cut everything 10%, well, there are mandated services we have to provide, offices we have to provide for. So, and if we went to, and I'm not going to call one out in particular because they're all, it doesn't matter. If we came to not one of our offices, but say we went to one of the constitutional officers and said, we're going to cut your budget by 10%. What are they going to say? They're going to say, no, you ain't. Now, we've had those conversations. We've had cordial conversations with them. Hey, look, it's not pens and paper that's killing us on our budget. It's the cost of people. People are the ones delivering most of the services that you and I depend on. It's people that are out there mowing the grass on the side of the road. If you do the math, we mow about 3,000 miles of grass a year. I mean, it's people. Tractors ain't gonna drive themselves. Patrol cars ain't gonna drive themselves. And you know what? And there's a lot of you in here that are in business. And what's it like in business today? Competing for quality people to ride in that patrol car. We fight that every day. What's to keep that guy right there? I'm picking on you because you're standing there. I know you got a gun, so. What's to keep him from tomorrow going, hey, what, they're paying more money in Fayette County? And they are. They are. And you've heard the sheriff, if you paid attention to any of our meetings, you've heard the sheriff come to us. You've heard the police chief come to us. We're losing our qualified law enforcement officers to Atlanta. Well, I can tell you, my son went to Atlanta and it wasn't so good. Now he's back in Thomaston. So a lot of that quality of life, they do find out eventually. So, but you're competing for a quality workforce. So what is the one way to make sure your property taxes and look, I pay these same property taxes too. I'll be happy to show you mine. It hurts. Real growth, not inflationary growth. That inflationary growth is what you're seeing on your tax bill. That's what's driving up your homes. Your home values are driving up. People are moving here. There are people in this room that didn't live here 5 years ago. Guess what? You came down here and drove our property values up.
Amen.
I mean, we're in that bubble. We are designed. So that's happening. And you talk about planning. We are having conversations. What are we going to do when if there was ever again a major correction in the real estate market? We all went through that back in 2010.
2008.
Yeah. So the only true way to do it is to have real growth, to make sure that that guy back there is doing his job and is bringing industry to our community, bringing jobs and wealth to our community. Somebody asked a question, they said, well, so you get an industry here and you do all these exemptions. Well, we do tax abatements because we have to compete for those quality businesses to come here, right? We got to compete. If you're in industry and you're looking to go somewhere, hey, what are you going to do for me? I'll use the latest one. I'm going to bring 200 jobs that pay $50,000 a year on average, and we're going to do a $1 billion investment in your community. What are you going to do for me? Well, all right. Well, the IDA typically, we do a 10-year abatement, but it's based on job creation. You got to deliver those 200 jobs that pay that average of $50,000 a year that you said, and you got to invest that $1 billion. Or guess what? You don't get that abatement for that year. And generally what we have done is 10% over a 10-year period. So at the end of 10 years, they've done everything they've done. They've got a 50% reduction on their taxes. A $1 billion industry. I think, and Slade, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I think the numbers that we ran on this $1 billion industry was a net for the city, the county, and the school system at the end of 10 years, even giving them a 50% abatement, was $54 million or something like it, between $55 and $60 million. That's where you got to have growth. We've got to have more revenue industries come here. That's what his sole purpose in life every day he comes to work is to make sure that what we have stays here and what we want comes here.
We don't want toxic industry here.
Yes, ma'am. And that's a whole other subject, and there'll be a lot more conversations on that. You know, when that, there'll be hearings and, you know, there's a lot about that. There's a lot out there on it. I would just tell you, make sure you do your homework. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Get both sides. It's just like our world that we live in today. Get both sides and make your mind up for yourself.
Can I ask a question on that?
On the,
What you just said about there's going to be more discussions, because Slade told me and some other people that it's a done deal, that there's not going to be any more conversations.
well, when I say there'll be more discussions, what I'm referring to are public hearings for permits.
Yes.
Well, for air quality permits, for water, all that stuff. But yes. But it's on the company to deliver. And I didn't really want to, you know, that's a whole nother subject, and I'm glad he's available. If you got any questions, he's been the most available person here lately. Ask him. Slade Gulledge, Director of our, Executive Director to Thomas and Upson Industrial Development Authority. All right, I'm going to go back to the list.
If you'll just let me for a minute, even though I'm not on your list, thank you for clarifying a lot of this information that a lot of us did not understand. And yes, we did look on the website, and yes, we misinterpreted apparently what was posted. And so I want to thank you for the clarification, but you also said that you all are available not for public discussion here apparently, but to make an appointment and talk to you.
I think every county commissioner up here, ma'am, has their contact info. We've got phones that they'll forward to us, cell phones.
No, who is my county commissioner? I live on Odom.
That's not true. That's not true. I tried to call my commissioner 5 times, and yet to respond. 5 times.
Maybe, sir, maybe that's an issue with you and your county commissioner. I can't speak to you specifically or any specific ones, but most everybody is available.
Odom Road, up by the ridge.
Near Commissioner Jones's district.
Mr. Jones?
Hickory Ridge.
No.
Northridge. Northridge.
That's you?
That's me.
All right, I'll be talking to you.
Call me.
And again, we don't typically do this because when we do public comments, we're open to, we want to hear from y'all. All right? And you can come say anything. And then Mr. Dawson, hold on. You know, if we, you know, we typically won't want to have a conversation like this because this is what happens, right? But I really felt like
we're getting information from it.
But
great.
Yeah, but everybody in here is because it's your taxes. Right. But imagine somebody comes in here and they want to talk about trash getting picked up on Thompson Road, and that hijacks your meeting for 20 minutes, and then everybody in the room is not interested in that. Everybody in this room is interested in your property taxes, I can assure you.
I can assure you.
Yes. So that's why I talked to the commissioners ahead of time, said, look, we're going to try to do this. We're not going to try to do a 101 finance. Wanted to give you a high level of what affects this. So with that, I'm gonna call your name, and if you would, please come up here, and I hope we've answered most questions, but if not, Mr. Barfoot. Well, that's what I wanted to hear.
I appreciate it. My biggest concern is, and this is not y'all's fault, I know, but why is it always the property owner? Why can't we figure out some kind of way to spread it over the whole county? I mean, we got people, everybody knows somebody that don't pay nothing in tax. I mean, why can't we tax cell phones? Why can't we figure out some kind of way that everybody pays? I mean, something. I'm all for, what do you say, the budget, $21 million, am I right? I wouldn't care if it's 42, I don't care if it's twice that, then we covered. I'm all for having the money, I don't want to borrow it, I'm 100% behind it. But we gotta figure out a way for everybody to pay, not just because I own a house. And y'all, I mean, you know, everybody needs to pay, and there's just too many people that don't. That's my frustration. I am not angry with the board, I don't want to pay, I don't want my taxes to go up, I don't want none of it. We got to figure out some kind of way to make everybody pay.
That's, you will kind of, I mean,
Splosh.
Yeah.
Splost is,
That's the best.
you know, that consumption tax is, you know, people can argue about whether it's fair or not, but it is, everybody does pay. If you spend, you pay. But we're mandated. This is the only way, I mean, this is the way Georgia's set up. So there's a gentleman in the room, I'm sure, that took some notes of your comments, so.
Well, I mean, am I right that didn't we vote on something in the last election that would allow a SPLOST to fund property tax? Am I right? Something of that nature?
Sales tax has to be used for capital improvement projects. It can't be used for salaries and stuff, Jason.
There's a constitutional amendment ballot question that gentleman would be interested in, that I'm sure that Representative Dickey could help him understand. That would, if the voters approve that, and I'll try not to butcher it, sir. It would provide it would provide an additional penny sales tax that would go to reduce homesteaded properties property tax burden. So only the homesteaded properties, not to. So basically, your primary residence in Georgia, that entire penny would go to a property tax rollback.
Not landlords.
Not commercial, not industrial.
It's just homeowners.
And that's still in discussion before this next year, maybe, or?
No, it'll be on the ballot in November.
Oh, it's on the ballot this November.
It's on ballot November.
So make sure you go vote, please. So.
I appreciate
It would also limit the increases in valuation on that homestead to inflation rate in the coming year.
What's it called for the?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Boyle?
I'm Chris Boyle, 245 Charlie Jones Road. I'm against millage increase. I'm not in finance. I don't know a whole lot about county government. I'm a maintenance man. But I know my property taxes have gone up on an average of about 13% for the last 6 years. I know we talked about this year and this year and this year, but 12.93% for the last 6 years. It feels like it's a shell game when you go and appeal your taxes. I appealed it last year. They changed some of it, but it came out to the exact same dollar amount. So as a property owner and taxpayer here in Upson County, I'm frustrated. We all are dealing with inflation, and I understand everything costs more. It costs me more to do stuff at work. It costs me more to do stuff at home. Like you said, gas is up, groceries are up, everything is. But we have to live within our budgets. And I heard it said in there weeks ago in this room, when we were talking about when y'all were talking about a library thing, about Flint River Library or something, they were asking for money. Said a comment was made about they need to live in their budget. I think we need to walk that walk instead of just talking that talk. I think we all need to.
Absolutely.
We all need to work within our budgets, and that's my piece. It's been a y'all have covered pretty much. You covered a lot of the stuff, so I think y'all have covered pretty much most of it.
So Jason, to that point, the budget is adopted. We've never overspent our budget. We've always come in under budget at the end of the year. The county budget as a whole, again, we have to have, and we have to. That's what, the millage, setting the millage rate and all that. We come in under budget at the end of the year, every year. So again, when we talk about cutting the budget, be at the meetings next month when we start having these conversations about when the department heads and other officers come in here and say, this is what I need. And don't even come to the meetings. Have those conversations with them. They're elected officials too. Ask them, hey, aren't you feeling this? We had that conversation with them. But again, at the end of the day, they're mandated to do a job, and we're responsible to provide them the resources to do their job. And if we don't provide them with the resources to do the job to the level that they say, guess where we go? We go see the lawyers and we end up in court. And that's not helping anybody. So, you know, have those conversations with us and with the other elected officials and say, hey, what can you do? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Blackson. I'm sorry.
Steve Blackston, 95 Peacock Road, big city of the Rock. So, I got 4 things I want to ask you about. Is there ever a full breakout of the budget available prior to it being voted on?
Yes.
I mean, completely detailed budget that is available for county to look at prior to it being adopted?
Yes, did we put the line item, you talking about by line item?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is that located and how would citizens find that to look at before it's adopted?
We post to our website.
To which
Or
website?
if you can come get a paper copy at the office too.
Which website is it available on?
Just the county main site.
For-
UCBOCCountyGA.org.
That's it.
Thank you. UpsonCountyGA.org. Okay, because a lot of people may not know that one.
Sure.
The second one, about the property tax and everything. I'm in agreement with Chris. Over the past 4 years, I've gone up 12%. This year, gone up $10,000 on my value of my house. It's amazing. I would just like to know, how is that done? And Mr. Ellington, nothing against you. I got a copy here of my estimated taxes, or the what they are going to be. It does show homestead exemption on here.
It didn't show it on mine.
Okay, well, I'm currently getting exemption at $10,300 on the, what is it, the county and the school M&O. I'm getting a $2,000 is what it shows on there. And so back to the, how is it evaluated? Can anybody tell me how that's done?
Well,
I understand.
that is done by a separate office for obvious reasons. You wouldn't want to put the fox in charge of the hen house, would you? You wouldn't want your county commissioners, Mr. Dick is sharp enough because he knows where I'm going with this. You wouldn't want the county commissioners being able to assess the value on your house and then using that as a means to derive money and revenue. So by state law, Constitution, the assessors are a separate entity, and they get their oversight from the Department of Revenue and the Department of Audits. So they assess the value. The county sets the millage rate, and the tax commissioner collects the taxes owed. That's why it's divided. There's separate functions.
Makes sense. You gave us the millage rates, 2.71 going down to 1.71 on the joint projects. You said the unincorporated services are going 2.75 to 1.38. What is the county M&O going from and to?
He mentioned that. That was
Never heard that number. I got the other ones.
6.45
6.45
to 9.51.
There it is.
So again, the net is going from 1191 to 1264.
And I understand you mentioned EMS, jail, courts. What is the main driving factor? I know you said 58% of it is coming at county M&O, but what is the main driving factor in that?
Number one is EMS, because it's the first time we've actually levied EMS in the countywide M&O.
Used to be a joint project.
So since it's removed from the joint project of county and city,
Right.
the county's taking the full burden of it, and so we're having to pay it all.
That's right.
And how much is that roughly?
About 1.2 million annually.
Okay.
And again, remember, before the county got in the EMS business back in 2022,
Oh, yeah.
we had nothing, and we were paying nothing.
Right.
So
And the last one I got, you mentioned in 23, the storm damage, bridges and everything. You mentioned 1.2 million to get that covered. At that time in my other job, I was working with I was working with a federal agency, come by offering federal funds to fix every single one of those bridges. Never was contacted. Savings of $1.2 million to the county. Never contacted. So
Who was it? I mean, you can give us that info after we leave here, but it was.
I can get it to you then. But I mean, that was offered to the county, 3 phone calls and an email. Nothing ever came back. I have pictures where I rode around, went ahead and did site evaluations on every one of them.
Anybody get an email or a phone call from anybody saying they'd pay the bill?
I can go back and give you the date and the time. Afterwards, I'll be glad to.
I'd be,
But,
and who did they go to?
I went straight to the office right upstairs, downstairs. I went in there, asked for, I believe it was Mr. Tinsley. He was out of the office. Secretary there took my card and the information, and never heard another thing.
Well, the 1 point whatever million it ended up being, we did end up getting 300 and something thousand back later from the state.
Yeah, this would have been covered completely by federal, the whole bit. And it's just a hard thing. I'm trying to understand, like, we're spending $22 million on the Justice Center down there.
That you voted on.
No, I didn't. It was voted on.
The majority of the voters in this community approved it.
I agree with you on that. It was voted on. But like the Lakeside plant, there's a proposition that purchase it for $1 million, take roughly $5 million to renovate it.
That happened a number of years ago when somebody else was sitting right here.
Correct, and that's the
And it
reason
didn't happen.
I'm aware of it. And for $6 million, you could have the same thing plus, 46 acres of land? And instead we decided to go with $22 million and a lot less land, and I don't understand. And
That ship has sailed, hasn't it?
it has, and unfortunately.
Why are you here today and not here 3 years ago?
If I knew then what I know now, trust me, I would. That's the reason I'm here a lot on the plastic company. It's nothing against any of you. I just feel as though it's been a badly run issue. A month ago, I was here at the meeting.
What's been a badly run issue?
The whole county. A month ago, y'all said in the meeting, and it's still on YouTube, that if nothing was done, if the millage rate was not increased, if I'm not mistaken, you said May of 2025, the county would be bankrupt. I can go back and check that 1 month ago.
I don't think I said that.
No, I'm not saying you. It was
You saying I did, but.
I'm referring to the board. Let me clarify. It's available on there is when you had the library came in here, the court came in here, you had the person come in here talking about the whole financial reviews. But I'm thankful, and this is not a dig on you. I want you to understand that.
I'm used to it. Bring it.
This is directly towards you. It is not. But I'm glad there's new people coming in. And again, it's nothing against you. I hope to see this board grow. I hope to see the county do something, but it's hard, as others are saying, that we, the property owners, having to bear the expense of everything. I like the gentleman's idea that he said, hey, can we put it on something else? Make it where it's everybody.
Sounds like you're going to have an opportunity to vote on it.
Well,
if you're so inclined to
yeah,
do that.
there's some more into that. That's interesting. But thank you for the time. I do appreciate it.
And to your comment on that, I appreciate you coming and getting involved.
Yes.
Now. Where you been?
I'm here, but I'm afraid I'm just a little late. But thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, really good. All right. Mr. Kramer?
Hello, I'm Brandon Kramer. I live at 189 Fambro Road in the Rock. I think, like a lot of people, I felt a lot better when we heard from 50 to 16. But 16 is still a lot. There's a Senate bill right now, Senate 349, trying to be passed, saying that it's unjust to raise people's property tax more than 3% a year. That's what they're trying to pass right now. And even at 16%, it's five times what they think is unjust. So that's still a lot of money. I just feel like, unfortunately, our city, the 47% they're raising it is really 47% they're raising it. So that hits me very hard. I own a lot of property in the city. I own a good bit of property in the county. This county thing helps a little bit that we're not so big, not such a big thing. But I just feel like 16% is still, even though we feel better that it's not 50, 16 is still pretty high. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Also, I thought about, is this are we going back and trying to take this retroactively? So I was not able to express my concern back in November after the last property taxes were paid. And I may be mistaken, but I believe that these meetings are for us to express our concerns when it's raised. So I don't know if they're going to go back retroactively. I wasn't able to discuss this last November when they were going to go up, but I'm here to discuss it now. So I was going to see if it's going to be for the next 3 months that they're going to go up if y'all pass it, or if y'all going to go back all the way to November and pass it. And that's what another thing I had to talk to. A lot of people heard my concern about the city taxes going up so high, but I did not ask them if they were going to make this retroactive.
I'm not. Anybody? I'm not.
So what I'm saying is,
you're
going to raise the tax at 16%. And if I was to sell a house today, I would pay the taxes up to this point. I mean, it accumulates through the year, is what I'm saying. So right now, if you raise the taxes a certain percent and pass it in September, and it's due in November, am I going to pay taxes for September, October, November? Or am I going to pass it for, am I going to pay it for the full year? So that's...
I'm not sure that answer you.
I want to answer, but I want to look something up and get back to you.
Because I'm going to ask the city.
I know exactly what he's asking.
Because it's an extreme amount for me in the city, 47%. And also, these guys are talking about, well, it's going up 12 or 13% per year. This year, they said 50, then it says 16. At what point where is it going to stop? That's kind of what I'd like to throw. I know I'm not going to get an answer for that, but us as concerned citizens, we want to let you, look, if we put this on our back, this 15, this 12, and this 15, please understand that's not something that we are comfortable with every year. We need to make sure that in our budgets or when we're spending to please understand that we don't want to continue this 12 and 15%. And I've just found out one thing. I know I will never again in my life ever vote to raise my own taxes. I don't care if it's a millage, I don't care if it's a squash or whatever. I will never in my life vote to raise my own taxes again. I pay too much now. And to vote in another 1% millage, my property, I'm a landlord.
Yes, sir. That's what I kind of figured the way you were asking your question.
Yes,
so you run a business.
I do.
And your business is owning property.
At the end of this
buying
month,
low and selling high and renting in the middle.
Rent them out, and that's my business. And I think I do a good job at it. I think I'm an asset to the community. I buy a lot of houses, I fix them up nice, and I rent them to people here. And like I said, at the end of this month, I have 60 units total, and that's whatever it is. But most of them are in the city, which that high property tax is really going to hurt me. But if we voted for another 1%, I would have to pay that, and then I don't have homestead exemption, so I got to pay more. You know, that would be extremely bad for me personally. So, anyways.
Yes, sir.
5 minutes. So.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Candace Brown, 468 White Road. I've got notes on my phone, sorry. I was going to ask a couple questions and then I had a couple comments too. Can anybody tell me what the percentage of residents, while you were talking about the unincorporated area, can you tell me what percentage of residents live in the area that's going to see the 50% tax increase?
Nobody in the unincorporated area is going to see a 50% tax increase.
Right, but what percentage
but if you're asking
residents in Polk County?
You're asking kind of, so about a third of the residents in Upton County live in the incorporated boundaries of the city of Thomaston.
But what percentage of residents in the county are going to see the 50% tax increase is what I'm asking.
Say none. None. The proposed rate is 16%.
Okay, the 16%. The 16%. What percent is it the whole county that's going to see the 16%?
I mean,
If I may, I think I understand the question. So 2/3 of the county will see the 16%. In 1/3 of the county, we only levy one tax.
Okay.
The other taxing authority controls all, so and of course, we haven't talked about school board taxes, but, we only control about.
County.
Yeah, the county only controls about 1/3 of the taxation total, so.
Okay.
So technically, the incorporated residents that are inside the city limits of Thomaston would see a 50% increase because it's the only tax we levy in the city. The other taxes are up to the city of Thomaston.
Okay. Excuse my ignorance, but how do you know if you live in an unincorporated area?
Do you live inside the city of Thomaston?
I do not.
Then you live in the
So I'm going to see
unincorporated.
the full 50%.
No.
I'm the full 16, I'm sorry, the full 50% for that one millage rate.
Yeah,
Okay.
your overall impact will be 16%.
Okay. Another question I had was what the projected increase of revenue with the millage increase, what it is. Like, what is the projected revenue?
I can look it up if she's going.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Because I was looking at the financial reports from 22 and 23, and I noticed that there was a 1.7 million tax increase just from 22 to 23. Now, I know expenses has went up too, but the total revenue of taxes collected went up 1.7 million over that 1 year span. So
That's a culmination of a lot of factors that, you really, at the end of the year is when you find out just how much revenue came from insurance premium tax.
that's just taxes, yeah. I
Yeah,
have to
all
break
these
down
taxes,
of it.
TAVT, all that stuff.
Actually, I can tell you. So just property tax was an increase of over $500,000. Just in property tax. Another question I have, and I want to preface this by saying I'm not in favor of anybody losing their job, but I noticed that from 2013 to 2021, the county had an average of 170 to 190 employees that were full-time employees. In 2022, that jumped to 234, and it even rose even more in 2023. So where I work, when we're facing budget crisis, which I think every business has, you have to look at cuts across the board, and we don't have the option to just go out there and collect more taxes from individuals, because obviously I don't work in the county government, but I just don't understand why we had such a high increase of full-time employees if we're hurting so bad to raise property taxes. And that's not just a 1 year increase. That's, like I said, from 2013 to 2021, the financial statement said there was said that there was between 170 and 190 full-time employees.
So 2013, so in 10 years.
2013 to 2021, there was
From 190 to 200.
170 to 190. In 2022, it went up to 234. So that was an increase of over 40 employees in a 1 year span. And I don't know if there's any explanation for that
It was a
anybody can
10-year
give.
span, right?
1 year. So from 2013 to 2021, there was between 170 to 190 employees. In 2021, there was 189 employees. In 2022, there was 234.
And that's showing full-time?
That's full-time employees.
That's the voting.
It says full-time equivalent county government employees. That's on the AFR.
Yeah, we have roughly 190 full-time employees.
Well, I don't know why that's on the AFR then.
For the count poll workers?
That's what we were just discussing, but I'm
Stuff like
I'm
that.
not sure what she's looking at. I'm not.
I can show you the page. It's page 132. Now, this is on the 2022 AFR because that was not published in the 2023 AFR for
Okay,
some reason.
let us do some research. We got
Okay.
your, make sure somebody gets the contact info from you, and
I
we'll get
will
you an answer for it.
And I will say too, I know we were talking about public safety a while ago, and I'm an advocate for public safety. They only accounted for a 3 employee increase. So the jail and sheriff's department, or however it was listed on there, only increased by 3 employees total. I know that we were talking about the road resurfacing, and I know that's not really applying to this particular discussion, but I just wanted to mention that I hope whoever does the road resurfacing does a better job than they did on John B. Gordon Road, because that road is in way worse shape now than it was before they resurfaced it.
Yep.
I don't know, I would encourage whoever is the commissioner for that area to ride down that road, because it is horrible.
The road department needs some work.
And then last thing, this was really addressed more to everybody in this room than it is to y'all, but I know I did a tax appeal this past year, and I actually appealed it. It was denied, and I came to the hearing, and I was the only person that came to the hearing. Mine was approved, and they talked about how impressed they were that I did come, because nobody ever does show up. So if you appeal, I strongly encourage you to actually come to the hearing, because you will likely see some results.
And do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework first, but thank you.
We'll get some answers to you.
Okay.
Now, I mean, I think a lot of those positions that are shown, a good, not a good number, but a fair number, are probably vacant.
Probably what?
Vacant, have not been filled. I mean, there were, for example, at the rec department, there were jobs that were not filled over there for budgetary reasons, trying to keep things under control. But
Yeah, I
they've
just
since
don't
been
understand
filled,
why
so-
it would have increased so much from 2021 to 22. I can understand
There's
prior
an answer
to-
somewhere, they'll
Yeah,
figure
because I can
it
understand
out.
prior to 2021,
Right.
it was higher, it went down, and went back up, but it didn't do that.
Good questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. White?
First off, that was my daughter, and I'm very proud of her.
You should be, you should be, I can tell.
I'm Pam White, I live at 488 White Road. And my question is, we have a budget for our house, okay, and we have to meet it. Our salaries have not increased the amount that we're actually having to pay out on anything. That's one thing. Another thing is, cut the fat. How many people in the county drives a vehicle home? That's unnecessary, unless you're on, to me, if you're on call, you have a right. That's the only reason you should be able to drive a county vehicle. That's fat that we're having to take care of. That's not our responsibility. We have to pay for our vehicles. Everybody else needs to pay for theirs. I had something else, and I can't remember what it was now. I should have wrote it down. But that was the main gist. That's my thing. I would like to know how many people drive home county vehicles.
Okay.
Just lost it again. Anyway, if somebody can give me that number, and I'll try to remember what the other one is, so. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. I hope everybody's questions got answered.
I have one more comment to make.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know who here, employed, retired, whatever, when did you last get a 16% increase in your income?
If I went to work again,
I have 2 jobs.
I'm 75 and I'm still working, because I had to eat.
So I'm just saying, you know, when, I understand that, you know, inflation and everything, my God, all of us are suffering from it. But when you're making your decision, can you keep that in mind? We didn't have a 16% increase. That's it. Thank you.
Sure.
Just in case it's fitting to be a mass exit or something, I just want to say this. Find out if you don't know, find out who your county commissioner is, who your representative is. And get the contact information. Because I know there's several people in this room, and I'm not gonna call them out. They have my contact information, and they don't mind calling me, and I don't mind calling. That's what I sign up for. But that's the easiest way to get answers, and you know, because it's frustrating. Because when I was driving to work this morning, I heard on the radio, 50% increase. I'm going, that ain't right. That's not right. And I was mad just hearing it. Yes, upset. And I want you to remember this. Just because we're not exempt from, we're not going to intentionally sit up here. I know I'm not going to sit up here and vote to increase my own taxes intentionally. I pay the same taxes that the rest of you pay. I face the same issues that you face. I work a full-time job, and this is my second job. So, you know, we're trying to do the best we can. Get your information from your commissioner, please, and don't get it from the coffee shop or from Facebook or from that buddy that we all got that knows everything that really don't know anything. Call your commissioner and find out. Now, you may not always like the answer you get from me when you call me, but at least you'll get an answer that's probably a lot closer to actual facts than you're going to get at the coffee shop or Facebook. Please just do that. And we don't have to be friends if you don't like me, but you can call and ask me a question and I'm going to give you an answer. So if you live in District 2, if you want my information, I'll be happy to share it with you. My email, my phone number. And you probably could get it from folks in the audience right here because they'll give it to you.
One of your buddies.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the end of the list. So is there a motion to exit the public hearing on the 2024 millage rate?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Before everybody gets up and runs out the door, we do have another public hearing that I would encourage you. So, gentlemen, next item on the agenda is zoning text amendment ordinance to Upson County, Georgia, to amend the code of Upson County, to amend the Upson County zoning ordinance to eliminate duplicate definitions, to prohibit new recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds from the AR and C2 zoning districts, to prohibit expansion of existing recreational parks and campgrounds, and to require maintenance of a visitor camper registry, providing for repeal, conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. So, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? That public hearing is now open, and I don't believe we had anyone sign up for that one. Yeah. So I need a motion to close that public hearing. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? That public hearing is now closed. You got something to present to us on that?
Very short, because it's a very short amendment.
Everybody likes very short.
You can't show it on the screen.
There's a couple, we're having IT problems tonight. Briefly, and that's what this ordinance changes, there are a couple of definitions. We're doing some cleanup as well as taking care of the RV park issue. So we're changing a couple of definitions.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please minimize the background noise, because we've got, still trying to do business here.
Getting rid of the old ones, and we have new ones, so we're not losing anything there. The major part of this, of course, when recreation facilities are applied for special exception that are RV parks, we don't have specific language that says RV parks, but we consider it part of recreation. So the language that you have in the draft ordinance is just to disallow recreation of vehicle parks. So that's what it is it's not an exclusion, it's an exclusion for recreation areas. We also eliminate any expansion of the current. We've got a ballpark 5 or 6 that already exists, and those will not be allowed to expand either by number of manufactured homes or RVs, or by the number of spots or area. We also, there was a potential interpretation that in C2 we might allow RV parks. So there's some language in here to make it perfectly clear that it's not allowed in C2 either. And then the last thing is, again, a cleanup from the last time we made RV regulation changes, was we put in a definition of a registry, but we never required the registry. So this language would just require that registry to be maintained by the existing parks that we have, so that if we suspected or thought there might be people illegally living in those parks, we would, in theory, have this registry that we could check and see how long those people were there. And Mr. Chairman, that's as much as we are requesting for amendment of the ordinance.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
All right, going back to these RV parks that we did, man, how many years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago? We had that RV ordinance in there where if somebody died, that wiped that spot out.
Correct.
Isn't, so nobody knows, if those people died and somebody didn't just move another camper in there?
We absolutely know because they have to renew every single year. It's called the TRRV program.
Right.
And we started out with, don't hold me to the number, but approximately 37 people
Right.
registered for the program when it opened and said, I live in my RV and are in as long as they renew every single year. We're down to 11 to 13.
Oh, really? Good. Okay. That was it.
I got a question about the RV.
No, sir.
I was here for.
No, sir. Be happy to hear you outside afterwards, but public hearing is closed.
So that's it. I'm done.
Okay. All right, so we'll hear this on our next meeting,
Second reading.
the second reading.
I don't think it requires a second reading unless you want us to have one.
Okay. So it's not here for adoption now? Is that what you're asking?
You would have the, I'm sorry, yeah, you would have the ability to adopt it if you want to. What is that?
From my perspective, we're required to have one public hearing. You just had it. So you met state law requirements, and when we published it in the newspaper, so we met all those requirements.
Gentlemen, what do you want to do?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion to approve the amended.
Zoning text.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? So I have a motion made and seconded to amend the ordinance governing the RVs in the county. Is that the best way to describe that? Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay, gentlemen, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. On tonight's consent, you have the approval of the July 23rd, 2024 regular meeting minutes, approval of the August 7th, 2024 work session minutes, and approval of Resolution 16.2024 for a budget amendment for the Pine Mountain Regional Library. Is there a motion on tonight's consent?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Motion made, second on tonight's consent. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay, new business. Discussion and consideration of a voting delegate for the 2024 Legislative Leadership Conference. As you guys know, we are required to designate someone to be our voting delegate at the ACCG Legislative Leadership Conference. Commissioner Watson has graciously volunteered. So with that, is there, I have a motion to, is there a second? I have a motion made and seconded, made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Wilder, to appoint Commissioner Watson as the 2024 Legislative Leadership Conference voting delegate for Upson County. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Abstain.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, you could vote for yourself. Next item on discussion, new business is discussion and possible consideration of a moratorium on subdivisions with less than 25 acres in AR. See, everybody left when the good one was here. All right.
You want me to tee this up, Doug? and then you
Somebody
can do
tee
the
it up.
details?
'Cause this one obviously, you know, some people are paying attention with this discussion. This discussion has been had now since our comp plan. It's like 2 years we've had this discussion about what to do. You know, 80% of our county is zoned AR. And as we grow, you know, one of our comp plans, and I'm probably stealing your thunder, one of our comp plans, goals, and objective was to maintain our rural identity throughout Upson County to the extent possible. And what we're starting to see now is large tracts of land being broken up, and the way it's currently being allowed, correct me if I'm wrong, is they're allowed to maintain that AR zoning as long as they keep it 2-acre parcels or more. So I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day. I said, just imagine that you have a 50-acre tract of land, and your neighbor has a 50-acre tract of land. And you wake up tomorrow, and you find out that he's gone down and he's rezoned, he has reparceled his land into 25 2-acre tracts and is selling them off, and they're in AR zoning. We frequently refer to AR as kind of our Wild West. It is agricultural residential. Everything kind of goes that is legal. You know, so if you want 20 chickens, 4 goats, 30 pot-belly pigs, we have nothing that says you can't do that in AR. So, but now you wake up today and your neighbor's selling these lots, and folks are coming down and they're buying these, and it's AR, and they're buying these, and they've got visions of having these 2-acre mini farms. So how are you going to feel? This is what's been driving this discussion now for over 2 years. How are you going to feel when that happens? So is it really the right thing to do? So folks, I'm telling you, that's what drove this conversation. Protecting our rural identity. Not saying you can't subdivide your land. What we're saying is, does it really make sense for it to be zoned AR, or should it be something else? If you're going from a 50-acre, 1-parcel piece of property to 25 2-acre parcels, shouldn't it be something more like residential? I mean, it's not that long ago, we had potbelly pigs roaming Cheryl Jean, right down the road from you, across on Winbrook. Potbelly pigs roaming the subdivision because it's zoned AR. Zoning never caught up with Cheryl Jean. So that's that's why we're at where we're at. Did I do good enough?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you pretty much covered it. I mean, so, you know, your land use, your amendments to your land use regulations and your subdivision regulations are working their way through the Planning Commission now as a result of a year's plus worth of work that this board has done and the Planning Commission has done on, you know, reviewing and recommending changes to try to better represent ordinances that are more in line with the comprehensive plan that this community worked on together over the last few years. So the planning director recently brought to my attention that knowing this, some folks that had designs on potentially doing this are accelerating it and trying to beat us before that change can be made. So we're just offering this to the board as a way to bridge us to November, when you'll eventually probably be adopting newer, tighter regulations on subdividing land. So this would give you the opportunity just to put a time-certain pause on this one aspect of our land use regulation until our ordinances that better represent our comp plan catch up.
Guys, I've done a lot of talking tonight. I'm tired.
But would the board like for us to cover just the highlights of what you're looking at, or I mean, obviously you can see it's not a very long document. I've reviewed it. The county attorney's reviewed it. Obviously, Doug drafted it. So if we can hit the highlights for you, or maybe answer any questions that you have.
And you, Mr. Chairman, you don't have to adopt it tonight. It was unclear to me, Heath, do we have to advertise a public hearing for that moratorium?
I would think so.
Okay, so we haven't advertised it yet, so that's why it's discussion. But anyway, we talked about this 2 years ago at your retreat, that would we want to do this? And you said, well, let's get the comp plan adopted. And here we are a year after the comp plan, and we're now making those changes to your land development regulations. And certainly, if we're going to make the move that we have been talking about the most in my office, from a minimum of 2 acres to whatever the double-digit number is, what we've been telling the public, 10, 20, 30. We don't have a hard number yet. But in the draft, you have 25 is a placeholder. So if you want to change that number, certainly that's your right to do that. We just need to place a holder number, and staff discussed it, and we came up with 25.
So say we, if not tonight, at the next meeting or the meeting after that, we adopt this ordinance that places a moratorium on subdividing the stuff and keeping it AR. What if somebody wants to subdivide their property and rezone it something else?
They can do
That.
This is a very narrow moratorium, only
It's just so that you can't keep it AR.
Right, but yeah, so you could ask for R1, R2, R5, et cetera, whatever Rs that we have, but if you're gonna keep it AR, that minimum can't go below 20. You can split it now, if it's 1,000 acres and you wanna split it into 25s, because that's the magic number we put in there, okay, well, that's the new temporary stopgap number until you adopt an official one with your new regulations. But I've been predicting to the public that won't be until October, November, later in the year. The Planning Commission just had their first serious public meeting yesterday and their first public hearing after their open house, and they asked to take another 4 weeks to look over the proposed changes, which it's probably 50, 70 pages between the subdivision ordinance and your zoning ordinance of pages that have a change of some sort. So it's a lot to absorb, and you will have that same opportunity after they forward it to you. But I guess just tonight, Mr. Chairman, we're just asking, the last time we talked to this 2 years ago was sort of a lukewarm reception. We didn't know whether you wanted to do a moratorium or not. I think it's a good idea. You see how narrow we're proposing it. I would certainly think that it's a good idea, but.
I mean, I think we all know that we've seen it happen, somebody going out here getting a 20-something acre tract and putting flag lots on it and calling it AR. It's in the big scheme of things, I mean, especially with flag lots, I mean, how is that beneficial to the future residents there and the neighbors?
Well, especially in AR, which is supposed to be agriculture. I think if you go to the double-digit number, whatever you decide on, that will certainly more reflect agriculture or a rural area than 2-acre lots.
Yeah, I say move on. I know we can't vote on it tonight because it wasn't advertised, but, maybe we'll see it next.
Oh, and Chairman, this, as Doug has said, and Jason, this is just a working draft on it. We were just kind of wanting to see if there was any input that y'all wanted to put into it, number one, or number two, if you were like, let's hold off on it, or the head nod.
So I think at this point, I mean, I think speaking for myself, I want to know if there's any input from anybody in the community, because again, we've had public hearings, you had open house, you mean, this stuff is out there, but again, it's like everything else, it's out there, but it's not. So I hope that because we've got a pretty good crowd tonight, that the word will get out and maybe hit the coffee table circuit or the social media circuit that, hey, the county, you know what those folks are trying to do now? They want to say, you can't subdivide your land. That's what's going to come. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. It's just saying, is it right to keep it AR, or should it be zoned something else? And what you're hearing from most of the commissioners tonight is, we don't know yet. We want to have the discussion. We want input. So provide us some input. Next item on the agenda. Ready to move on? All right. All right. Last item, discussion on the plans for the historic courthouse. And that really should say the historic courthouse and basically the buildings that we have had discussions about, such as the courthouse annex and the building that is currently that houses the Chamber of Commerce. What's the plans for those going forward? We talked about it at the work session the other day when we had those discussions about moving forward with the county consolidation of services. All those services that are court related are going to be at the new Justice Center. Those that are not court related will be consolidated over here, housed in this building or the Drake building. We had that meeting with Snyder the other day that they proposed it. But one of the things that we were shown was an estimate of the cost savings for us shedding those buildings, and it included the GDOT building, yes, which would go back to the state. they've got a clawback in that deed, and it would include us getting rid of those two buildings I just described. And the reason we're talking about the historic courthouse is that, based on conversations that we've had, and Jason and I have had with the mayor and the manager, is like, hey, these buildings have significant value for downtown development, downtown redevelopment, the Downtown Development Authority. It's an opportunity that provides a lot of, we saw the dollar amount the other day, the projected over 10 years or 20 years, that it would save us by, it was like $8 million over 10 years that we would save by shedding those buildings. We've had those buildings appraised. We pitched the idea to the mayor and to the manager, and I understand, Jason kind of, I don't want to speak for you, Jason, but it's my understanding, they're having a conversation about it, but we know that we're going to move forward with this consolidating these services. What are we going to do with these two buildings? And what is the potential plan for the historic courthouse?
So an update since the last time we talked at the work session. I did finally have an opportunity to talk with the city manager, and then of course said, hey, I would love to update my board on our conversation, and he was comfortable with that, and I think he was going to do the same with council. So I haven't talked to him since their meeting, but essentially I think at some level the city manager would be interested in discussing how we might own the historic courthouse jointly and convert that into a jointly owned facility similar to this one, similar to the senior center, and so forth. So it sounded like, at least at the staff level, they're not interested in taking ownership of it. But I think in exchange for us helping them acquire our two buildings on the square, sounds like he would be willing to have the conversation about owning the historic courthouse jointly. And like we've talked about in the past, potentially looking at putting downtown development in it, potentially housing the chamber there, having economic development from IDA, having all those offices consolidated, and then potentially providing some event space for a chamber, and then some exhibit space for the archive. So it sounds like that at some level they're interested in exploring that. I did share the appraisal on the two buildings with him. At first he says, well, what if you gave us those buildings, what if we took half ownership in the courthouse? And I said, well, I said, I think we'd probably be more looking at, maybe we would say, or we could give you these buildings for 50% of the appraised value for exchange and taking joint ownership in our other building. That was kind of a counter proposal that he and I discussed, and he said he would bring that to council to discuss further. So there's definitely some interest at some level, and I would see that as an advantage for both parties. Obviously, at this point, there's two components to that building: historic preservation and downtown sustainability and viability. So I think the city potentially has a little more interest in it now than we do. The one thing I will add to that, I says, well, hey, it would make more sense if maybe we shared the capital on it, but y'all operated it, and I think they saw potentially an advantage to that too. So,
what was that percentage of split?
That would be, they would operate it and run it. The capital would be 50-50 on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
similar to this.
So
same way we do this building.
It won't be a joint project split.
It would be like our facilities agreement. So, because the difference being in that building, we technically wouldn't have any space in it. It would be just joint projects, the city offices and IDA offices. The joint project component of it would be pretty minimal with our.
So the M&O on it, the capital would be 50-50, the M&O on the building would be 100% them.
Yeah, that was my proposal.
What I understood. But we got to do something. It's a historic courthouse. We spend a lot of money on it. It's downtown. We got to keep it up. I think we need to shed those other buildings. They have no value to the taxpayer. That's who owns them. we get them off our, get them on, get them in somebody else's bank account. And, get that savings plus any revenue we get off the sale. Because, it was brought up in the meeting earlier, is that, got cut, and in my opinion, that's a way to cut it. That's looking at it from a standpoint. And you can't look at it, oh, well, it's always been when that building's up. We gotta be realistic about it, we can keep building, we can keep paying a light bill, keep the roof up on it, and spend $8 million in the next 10 years keeping it up, but we're not gonna be any better off.
So we're on the right path?
My opinion, I don't know what they're.
I'm not necessarily interested in, because as we saw at the work session on Wednesday, there are costs associated with consolidating, HVAC upgrades in the Drake building, some mods to accommodate the tax commissioner and tax assessor's office over there. So the estimate on that was about $750,000. The sale of those buildings goes a long way to paying for them. So,
And then the cost savings, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said $8 million and a 10-year period?
I think it was $3 million over 10 years. I'd have to go back to the presentation.
Okay. Well,
It was substantial.
That's a pretty big number difference, but still, that's $3 million, $8 million.
and the bottom line too is, like you said, it gets those buildings into the hands of the city, and hopefully their DDA, and they can hopefully recruit some businesses and stuff down there and get some more taxpayers in here to help shoulder the burden.
Yeah, and if we, can't come to an agreement from the city, I think we put them on the market as soon as possible.
I don't want this to drag on. It's dragged on long enough. We've been talking about it for a while. We need a plan for it. And the courthouse looks amazing. I get stopped all the time. Needs to stay. And the city's the only one using it right now, other than the court. So it only makes sense if they would take the lead on it and do the day-to-day on it. So. Okay.
Yeah, and I think most people are not aware that the majority of our court calendar days are actually not held in that building. They're held here. Probate and magistrate. So Superior Court is 3 or 4 times a month, and then the occasional juvenile.
Well, hopefully that'll change here in the near future. All right. So, any other questions on that? Concerns? All right. Finally, comments, Mr. Tinsley.
Mr. Chairman, I want to apologize for the very sudden and disappointing IT malfunction we had here. We actually had the room completely set up, and we're not exactly sure what happened, but I would simply comment that I think the fact that we weren't actually able to look at the presentation probably garnered some pretty good discussion, so maybe it was divine intervention. But first and foremost, we're sorry for the inability to display some of the reports that we wanted to do. That's all I have, sir.
Ms. Jones?
I agree with Jason. IT looked at it earlier, it worked. I looked at it, it worked. It worked when we came in. I don't know what happened. So I apologize for that. One thing, I sent out a email about our joint projects meeting on August the 20th. That's next Tuesday. It'll be at 6 o'clock. Senior Center.
Okay. Mr. English?
6 o'clock.
Just need to get your signature on 2 of those documents.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Mr. Wilder?
No, I just, no, I would like to comment you on the crash course on the finance.
I didn't intend to.
Finance. You did a pretty fair job. I just hope they understood. I don't have anything to say.
Mr. Jones?
I got a lot to say, but I'm going to keep it short. I appreciate everybody that showed up. I appreciate y'all getting out and speaking up. We don't set the value on your house. Tax assessor's office does that. We came together as a group a couple years ago, come up with a great homestead exemption for seniors and everything else. And I'm gonna get this in the newspaper or somebody, because I know somebody's gonna say something about me saying it. The majority of your taxes is the school board. And if we could get some kind of better exemption for seniors, that'd help everybody. I'm done.
I don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman. I'm on a clock that, I can't eat at nothing after 9 o'clock. Because I'm having surgery tomorrow and, man, I'm really hungry.
Yeah, I was just gonna reiterate the importance of the bond rating. The gentleman that presented at the first of the meeting, I mean, ultimately, our current bond issuance, we got below 3%. So, I mean, I don't know anybody today that can get any type of interest rate in that range. And that is due to our high rating. And ultimately, the lower your rating, the higher your cost of money is. So just wanted to reiterate, and that's due to the financial strength of the county. How many other of your counties that you've been with lowered?
All over.
Well, they may not be now, but they will.
I want to rescind my motion. I do want to say this, and I really want to say it to you, and I want to apologize if I came off a little strong to you, but I get offensive too, just like you get upset about your tax bill when I hear stuff like, you guys are doing this, you're doing this, and I hear people say you're pocketing money, you're doing this. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm fighting for me just as much as I'm fighting for you, okay? Once again, I pay the same bills you pay. And when we, since in the 2 terms I've been on this board, we have done so many great things, but it only takes one thing to come out and all that's washed away, all that's forgotten about. We don't borrow money for TANs. We,
Paving roads.
We're paving roads, and people says, well, you guys did this, the justice, no, we didn't do the justice complex. We done what was required by law. We put it out there and said, we're not making this decision. We're going to let the voters make the decision. But we can't go out and pick everybody up and take them to the polls. If 5 people showed up and voted for it, and that's all, and all voted yes, it gets voted in. I'm sorry. We can't control that. We can't get people to come to the meeting. So,
I mean, look at the
please
last
understand,
election.
it's frustrating for us too to hear these things, to know that that there's so much disinformation out there, y'all. I mean, it's true. It's just out there. I don't know if and I won't say it's intentional. Some of it's unintentional. Sometimes we speak and we don't know. Obviously, I spoke tonight and I didn't know. Mr. Blackston, correct? I didn't see it on my bill. I didn't see my CUVA or anything like that on there either. But that being said, I'm pretty passionate about this. I try real hard. And at the end of the day, if my name's on the ballot and you check yes, you check no, it ain't gonna make a difference.
I appreciate that. I know we went away from the meeting that you usually do, and you were answering questions, so I surely appreciate that.
It was more fun.
All y'all do on the board. I know it's frustrating sometimes for our side and their side, but we'll totally try to work for the common good of the people of Upson County.
And I'll close with this. I mean, we sit up here and we say, you get a group of people in the room, and it's in your nature. If you do this type of stuff, it's in your nature. You want everybody to be happy, right? But I've been doing this for 8 years now almost. And I tell you, if I did one thing right now, half of you are going to leave here mad, and half of you are going to leave here happy, I hope. And that's on a good day. So, and we talked about this before the meeting. Mr. Ellis and I were coming in because he's already seen the paper for tomorrow. So, and he says, man, he said, what are we doing to ourselves? Because public perception. He said, we're in here, we're going to have a public hearing tonight talking about a millage increase. All right, first one we've ever done. And on the front page of the paper tomorrow, it's going to say county approves, which we have not. We talked about it. $3 million renovation at the Civic Center. Okay, so you'll see that on paper tomorrow, and you're going to be sitting at home tomorrow. God dang it, there they go. We're talking about cutting back. We're going to put $3 million in the rec department. Well, guess what? It was on splashed. rec department improvements. If you've not been over there, I encourage you to go over there and look at the ball fields. Mr. Adams back there can attest to a lot of this. Go look at the ball fields. They've been neglected for many, many years, like a lot of our roads. So what we're talking about doing is a complete renovation of those ball field complex. We're going to have a place where these kids can go out there and play ball, where you don't have big humps, them having to worry about eating a baseball.
It's dangerous.
You know, have facilities they can use when it's not raining, and that's all with splosh money. So again, I heard the gentleman tonight, I'm not going to ever vote for a tax increase. Never going to vote for a splosh. Well, I tell you what, if you never vote for a splosh, a no vote for a splosh in my world, and I've been doing this long enough, guess what? You're voting yourself a tax increase. Unless somebody does something to change the property tax laws in this state, you're going to vote yourself a tax increase. Because those patrol cars, guess where they come from? Those cars those tractors that we use to mow the grass on the side of the road, guess where it comes from? Splosh. If it's got to come out of regular revenue, M&O, you just voted yourself a tax increase. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat a dirty sock or something, but, but people, as a community, I'm proud of what we've done. As a community, we didn't do this. The community votes on this stuff. We're just doing what you tell us to do. I hope most of the time. Yeah, we're going to get it wrong, but you need to be proud of your community. We've come a long way. We've come a long way, and I'm excited to see some young folks come here tonight, other folks come here tonight, fresh faces I haven't seen before. I hope you continue to come, because you got to pick up the torch. When the watch stand's relieved, who's got the next watch? Hope y'all do. So that's all I got. Is there a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned. Go get something to eat. Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got that other one?
Is your daddy been watching?
Yes, sir.
Well, I went to high school.
Okay.
Tell him, I said, hey, Rick Harlow. Okay. Rick Harlow. We used to go out and shoot doves on that property he had up here years ago. He still has it. Tell him I said, hey. I will. Appreciate it. I don't know. I'll tell him the truth. I called you. Nice to meet you. Rick Harlow. It's a number 10. I know you talking about it.